If we
Coming up
needed our
next.
eyes to be checked, we would go to an optometrist or an ophthalmologist. But when our minds are sick or broken, oftentimes the first place that we turn is to our spiritual leaders and not to people who have been properly trained to deal with the issues and circumstances surrounding what is happening to us. The Black community is more inclined to say that mental illness is associated with shame and embarrassment.
So many choices, so many decisions, and so little time. Do you wrestle to understand the equations of life? Start a business or start a job? Should you get in a relationship or do you end one you're in? Is there more you should be doing with your life? What's your purpose and calling in life? Decisions. Are you at a point in your life where you need answers? There's definitely hope. Join the Unplugged experience, get connected with noted life coach, spiritual teacher, and catalyst for change, Dr. Diane Clark, for her show called Unplugged.
Hello and welcome to Unplugged. I'm so glad that you decided to tune in today. Whether you are a regular or it's your first time, we welcome you to the show. Unplug, what is it about? It's been my observation that trauma, drama, and consequences of bad decisions produce a cord that plugs us into cycles of self-destruction, negativity, patterns of failure, and undesired manifestations in our lives. Our subconscious mind records programs in our psyche, and as a result, we can spend too much time and effort looking outside of ourselves for solutions, whether permanent or temporary, that avail little to no liberation for the chaos that's formed in our minds from our life's experience. The emphasis on this program is to do a self-check and an analysis to ensure you are in alignment with your God-given purpose and destiny. Destiny fulfillment is paramount. It is important that we are working with God to fulfill his assignment when he sent us into the earth. Because you see, when he sent you here, he promised the earth something, and he's waiting for you to fulfill that promise that he made. As a transformational life coach, I help you discover the invisible barriers that have kept you from grasping your full potential and brings you into complete fulfillment. I assist you in becoming unplugged from old mindsets, paradigms, and the negative connotations that keep you from moving toward and achieving the success you are predestined for in your life. God never created you for failure. He never chose you to lose you. And I want to work with you to fulfill the will, plan, and purpose of God in your life. Today's topic is mental health and the Black community. I have a special guest that's going to be dialoguing with me in just a very short moment, Dr. Dwayne Whitehead from Virginia. I want to talk first about mindsets. Mindset is important because it drives the quality of our lives. A mindset is a set of assumptions, methods, or notations held by one or more or a group of people. And in the Black community, when it pertains to mental health, there are some mindsets that we need to address, because it's not only affecting our lives, it's affecting our spiritual lives as well. And it's time that we get unplugged from the negativity that causes us not to be able to function as well-rounded, wholesome human beings on the earth. Did you know that 13.4% of the U.S. population identifies as Black or African American? 16% of them reported having a mental illness in 2020. That's over 7 million people, more people than the population of Chicago, Houston, and Philadelphia combined. There are higher risks, of course, for developing a mental health condition in our communities: homelessness, exposure to violence, depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorders. processing and dealing with layers of individual trauma on top of new mass trauma caused by COVID-19, uncertainty, isolation, grief from financial or human losses, police brutality, and its fetishization in news media, and divisive political rhetoric adds compounding layers of complexity for individuals to personally manage responsibly. It has taken a toll on our communities, and it is only growing worse. The Black community has a high degree of stigma, of course, that's associated with mental illness. However, if we were to break an arm or a foot or a leg, we would have no problem going to an orthopedic doctor whose specialty is working on bone and muscle. We would think nothing of going to see about that. If we were having problems with our stomach, we would go see a gastric doctor. If we needed our eyes to be checked, we would go to an optometrist or an ophthalmologist. But when our minds are sick or broken, oftentimes the first place that we turn is to our spiritual leaders and not to people who have been properly trained to deal with the issues and circumstances surrounding what is happening to us. The Black community is more inclined to say that mental illness is associated with shame and embarrassment. You know how it was growing up. You had that cousin that they said her elevator didn't quite go to the top floor, or they were missing the French fries from their Happy Meal, and we all laughed about it. But in sincerity, we really were making fun of the fact that they had a mental challenge, they had a mental illness, or something was going on in their minds that needed to be fixed. Black and African American men are particularly concerned about stigma because men have been blessed with the gift of ego. And I describe ego as easing God out, because when it gets down to the rubber, for most, they will choose their ego even above what's good or right for them. You're beating your wife, you're traumatizing your children, everything makes you angry, you're drinking, you're smoking, but yet you think your mind is healthy and well. You need anger management. You need to talk to someone about the repressed issues that have happened in your childhood that are playing out in your adult life and interfering with the quality of happiness that you could have as a family or as an individual. Seeking mental health care is often viewed as a weakness. It's running counter to the survivalist mentality born from systemic oppression and chronic racism. We grew up with chronic racism. We grew up being the person in the back, the person in the other room, the person who couldn't drink at the fountain, of course, until things changed because of the civil rights movement. But even now, we can see around us that there are places of systemic prejudice that are still in place, even in our generations. And here we are in 2021, about to go into 2022, still dealing with systemic prejudice among our community. It is birthed from what I call the slavery mentality. And we're going to deal with that mindset this afternoon as I bring my guests on. We're going to talk about the historical adversity, which includes slavery, sharecropping, race-based exclusion from health and education, social and economic resources, translates into socioeconomic disparities. And we are living in the results of those things now, experienced by our forefathers, by some of our parents, some of our grandmothers, and great-grandparents if they're still alive. Historical and contemporary instances of negative treatment have led to a mistrust of authorities. And we're going to talk about that more when my guest comes on, many of whom are not seen as having the best interests pertaining to Black Americans, because in many instances, because they don't understand our culture, They don't know our background, neither do they respect the things that we've experienced. They don't know how to properly treat us in some areas. So I am grateful that we have a mixed culture of professionals who are ready and able to work with you, to walk things through with you, to get healing for your mind. Let me introduce my guest. My guest is Dr. Dwayne Whitehead. He's a spiritual and marketplace leader whose insight and acumen has garnered national and international recognition. He, along with his wife, are lead pastors of the Destiny Center, Richmond, Virginia. Purpose to build leaders, influencers, and creatives to dominate their sphere of impact. I want you to welcome to the show Dr. Dwayne Whitehead.
Well, thank you, Dr. Clark, so much for having me. I'm excited to be here with you, and I am excited to join into the conversation with you. I think this is such a necessary conversation when we talk about mental health in the African American community. And I'm excited for the dialogue. I'm excited for the exchange, and I think that we will find a place of healing and a place of just betterment as a whole, as a people, as we navigate this conversation. So thank you so much for having me, and I'm looking forward to being here.
Thank you. I was talking about the effect of the slavery mentality that has been passed down generation to generation, that's even now affecting us after we've been educated, after we have properly assimilated ourselves into society. We still have a disparity of our people going to see about their minds. And that's what
Yes.
led me to this show. We need to help people come to the realization that it's time to get unplugged from old mindsets and paradigms that are hindering us in our present, and it certainly will lessen the quality of our lives in our future.
Sure. I absolutely agree with you. So there, when you talk about this, it strikes a burden and a passion for me. Right around 2015 or so, there was this term that was created called post-traumatic slave syndrome, and it is a medical and clinical and what they consider a generational traumatic term. And when we look at post-traumatic slave syndrome, it really encompasses how, as an African American people, even as we navigate through our diaspora from Africa and such, what we find is that we are navigating now generational trauma because of areas of slavery and the like. And so, from a medical standpoint, what the doctors literally say is that for African Americans, because of the trauma that we have navigated, that there is literally etched within our genetic code this wiring and this bend and this awareness of trauma that's rooted in a slave mentality, even if we have not experienced it ourselves. So there are certain words, there are certain catchphrases, there are certain scenarios that automatically trigger a trauma response in us, when it may be that I haven't even experienced the scenario myself, but it is because my great 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 grandfather experienced this particular scenario. We can look at it. There've been this is how they talk about it. Let's say, for instance, you walk up, you're at a gas station, and a Caucasian person comes up to you, and they look at you a certain way, or they jump, or they make a certain gesture towards you. You automatically have a response, and then you wonder, where does this come from? And it could be that your great 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 grandfather had that same scenario that happened, that now triggers this clinical and generational trauma. And so what we have to navigate is how we are connected from our DNA code into this place of trauma. And so this conversation is so important for African Americans, just as you said, that there are things that we've experienced, that our ancestors have experienced, that we thought was gone away with. We thought that the civil rights movement had really captured and navigated and kind of brought us to a different place. And then we're finding over these last few years that we're still navigating some of these same scenarios, but they're wrapped up and they just look a little differently. And so because of that, it's important for us to realize the generational trauma connected to our legacy, but also realize that there is a generational strength and there are things that we can do to protect and promote and push us into a greater place of mental health. So I love everything that you said thus far.
Thank you. Listen, I want us to really talk about that. You know, biblically, in the Old Testament, God said that the curses would move through the punishment for the sins of the fathers, would go through 3 and 4 generations. So we know that biblically, it is possible for decisions and things that are made to affect your children, your grandchildren, and your great grandchildren going through those generations. We saw it with David. We saw it with Solomon, his son. And we see that God was true to his word on that. And then he gave us redemption through Jesus Christ, which now
Yes.
changes everything, because now we have authority over those negative trends, those negative things that we have received or inherited in our
Yes.
bloodline, that we have authority now if we understand how to be delivered from those things. But I am concerned, Dr. Dwayne, that many people feel that deliverance ministry is the all-encompasses fulfillment of dealing with mental health. And that is not true. You can go through deliverance ministry, but if you actually have a chemical imbalance or there is something going on physically in your brain that's affecting your psyche, your mentality, that's affecting the way you process your environment, you not only need spiritual help, but you also need some professional help.
Absolutely. I think one of the, if I could say it this way, one of the Achilles heels of the church is not having a great balance on balancing the natural and the spiritual. And one of my college professors said this statement to me one day. He said, Dwayne, the natural and the supernatural coming together is really what makes the greatest impact. And what we've seen is that we've focused and we've majored on deliverance, which deals with the spiritual root. But after we deal with the spiritual root, we've got to go back now and deal with our patterns, our mentalities. We've got to deal with our psyche. And that does not happen at the altar. Sometimes that may need to happen in a clinical setting, because the truth of the matter is when Paul says that beloved, I pray for all things that you would prosper and be in health as your soul prospers. What we need to understand is the technology of our soul prospering actually takes work beyond the altar. It takes being in a place that creates an environment that gives us the ability now to open up some of these conversations and even navigate some of the wounds that we don't have the ability to dance over, to speak in tongues over, to shout over. And so what we're finding, one of the revivals really that's in the earth is now, I believe that mental health is a revival. I believe that it is a move of God that God has literally placed in the earth to ensure that we are course corrected, if you will, so that we are presented wholeness. And particularly for those who name the name of faith, and we talk about apostolic and prophetic communities, I believe that one of the challenges that we see in church as a whole is not even necessarily from it's a chemical imbalance, but beyond that, damaged emotions. And I
Yeah.
think we have leaders and pastors who are preaching, but they're spilling out damaged emotions. I think we have married couples getting married, and not only are we coming into covenant with each other, our traumas are coming into covenant with each other. Our damaged emotions are coming into covenant with each other. So what we have to do is we have to push pause, and we need a hard reset so that we can realize and navigate now that once I get done with the altar, what type of conversations do I need to have concerning my soul? What areas of forgiveness do I need to have? What clinical help do I need to have so we can navigate some of the challenges that may be innate to me, that may need levels? I don't believe that medicine is of the devil when it's done properly. I don't
Correct.
believe that, I don't believe that sitting on the couch. It's funny, Dr. Clark. I was talking to one of my friends one day a couple of months ago, and he was texting me. He said, "Hey, man, what are you doing?" I said, "I just got out of therapy." And he said, "Oh, my goodness, is something wrong?" I said, no, everything is right. I go to therapy so that nothing will be wrong.
Be wrong.
But the stigma is if I go to therapy or if I invest in my mental health, that there is a problem. And the reality is, if we are wise and we are diligent, we invest in our mental health. That way, nothing is wrong on the other side.
We'll be right back. If you've enjoyed this encounter with a true catalyst for change, Dr. Clark is now offering a new offer this month. Hear a new ebook offer that will change your life. Go to DianeUnplugged.com. Put a seed in the ground and name your seed. Experience the blessings of the Lord by sowing into this outreach. Help us take the gospel around the world. You can do so by going to Cash App. Type in the dollar amount you would like to give, and then type in $D Clark Ministries in the For section. Make sure you include your telephone number and a small prayer request. I can assure you that our prayer counselors will be praying for your needs.
Depression, anxiety, emotional trauma. Do saved people really experience these kinds of issues? Well, Dr. Diane Clark pulls the Band-Aid off. Join TV host, author, and life coach Dr. Diane Clark for the Unplugged live experience.
Has become the buzzword of what's going on. And I believe that God wants to infiltrate
for an afternoon of healing mixed with the powerful praise and worship.
I thank you that you are sent ones and God's going to
with
send you forth as
life-changing
royal
speakers.
citizens of the kingdom of heaven.
All hell was breaking loose. I mean, we went from one thing to the next.
You step off into a territory of opinion. You got to get ready.
For event information and vendor opportunities, call 904-419-9831. And Prophetic Presbytery will be available. Join us at the HC Multicultural Center located at 6651 Crestline Drive, January 30th at 4 p.m.
That is true. And I was going to the emotional responses that are going on among I really want to deal with our community because I want to help that move, that shift that's going on to bring us to a place of wholeness. You know, we're in 2022 and we're supposed to be coming to a place as sons of God that we are manifesting the kingdom. We are manifesting his character, his power, and his glory. But because there are parts and pieces of us that are broken and unhealed, we cannot accommodate the weight. You know, in the Hebrew, glory is doxa, and that's weight. In the Greek, it's kabod. It's weighty. It carries with it. You need a responsibility to handle it. And we see in the Old Testament, the glory was made visible so that the people would know that the presence of God was with them. But in this new covenant, we have God inside of us, and we are literally glory carriers. But if there are places in us that the glory cannot operate through, then our light is dim, which explains what's going on in our current and present day. Our younger generation, they're not seeing enough light to penetrate the darkness that's in them. And if we would get to the place of carrying that glory, then we could reach them in the spirit a lot quicker than we can with advice.
Oh, absolutely. I love that. And I think that speaks to the piece about how the natural and the supernatural really working together is really what creates the greatest impact. And when we find that we deal with one versus the other, that's where it creates a problem. So what we have to do, we have to realize, number one, that everything starts with the word of God and with prayer. We need to understand, number one, what does God say about my mental health and my soul? What does he desire for my soul, number one? And then I pursue that, number one, through prayer, through my relationship with him, through my ability to let go of, to come out of agreement with things that have been attached to my soul as a result of sadness, of sickness. I mean, we've all navigated the season of a pandemic. And for the African American community, what we have found is that we are still navigating disproportionate realities, which has shown us and put it in a great place that some of the main things that we see in the African American community when it comes to our mental health is many are navigating through, number one, a lack of low self-esteem, number two, persistent feelings of anger, And number three, internalized racist beliefs. And what that really centers around is how they used to call it in Uncle Tom. Now, the history there with Uncle Tom is really navigating how
Right.
a Black man then begins to believe what a Caucasian person with hatred and racism says about him, and then begins to spew that
Yes.
amongst the Black community. That's the history of the Uncle Tom.
Right.
And when
And
we
we
look at that,
perpetuated the story by
yeah,
spreading it. We help spread it like seeds that are
absolutely.
producing. We have about 6 minutes. And I want to say thank you so much. I am enjoying dialoguing with you. I'm going to have you back
Absolutely.
on the show. I want you to take
Awesome.
just a couple of minutes to tell us where you're from and
Mhm.
about your company. I see that you develop a company where you're raising up leaders. And if you would give us that and your Facebook.
Sure. I'll do all of that. Okay. So again, as you know, my name is Dr. Dwayne Whitehead, and my wife and I have a few businesses. One of the main ones that I want to highlight, we are both a part of the John Maxwell team. And in the John Maxwell team, we've launched our own business, number one, called Conception Coaching. What Conception Coaching really centers around is helping coach business leaders, CEOs, pastors, and creatives who are looking to go to the next level in their leadership and their marketing and their branding and even in their mental health. And we've built a system that really encompasses all of that to ensure that leaders are being raised up to be most impactful in their spheres. We also have a financial company, DEW Financial Group. The DEW, people say do, but it's really DEW Financial Group. And in that, we're helping people make sure they're covered with insurance, building budget plans, securities and investments, and the
Okay,
whole gamut.
just come on and give us your Facebook. How can people get in contact with you?
Sure. So on Facebook, it's just Dwayne Whitehead. On Instagram, it's Dr. Dwayne Whitehead. And then my website, www.dwaynewhitehead.com.
Thank you so much for being with us today. I hope
Absolutely.
that you enjoyed this segment of Unplug, dealing with mental health and the Black community. Thank you for joining us, and I want you to tune in again on next week. We're going to continue with Unplugged. We have a book that I believe you would enjoy, Becoming Your Authentic Self, and you can get that book by going on our website at dianeunplugged.com, or you can hit me in my email at dianeunplugged@gmail.com. I love to hear from you, and I welcome comments about the show. Thank you so much for tuning in on today. I want you to know that Unplug is really designed to help not just the Black community, but to re-educate other nationalities, other races, other ethnicities, to understand what is really happening in that relationship between life and spirituality, life and success and progress, so that we can properly balance the things that are necessary for us to be successful. It is the will of God, according to the word of God, that we prosper and be in health as our soul prospers. And our soul compasses our will, our emotions, and three things: our mind, will, and emotions. And it's time for us to bring those things now into alignment so that they're functioning in a way that leads us to the success that we desire. We spend a lot of money trying to find out how to be successful, but I'm bringing it to you on this program that your success starts with your mindset. So why not tune in to Unplug and unplug from things that will keep you from moving forward, keep you from achieving your goals, keep you from being successful, not just in money, but successful in your relationships, successful in your career, successful with your family. I want to help you. I want to help highlight the things that will be beneficial to you, because everything really starts with a conversation. God created the world with words, and it takes words to make conversation. So I'm inviting you to tune in to Unplug every Thursday, 10 o'clock a.m. We'll be right here to help you get Unplug. Bye-bye now.
You've enjoyed this encounter with a true catalyst for change. Dr. Clark is now offering a new offer this month. Hear new ebook offer that will change your life. Go to DianeUnplugged.com.
Depression, anxiety, emotional trauma. Do saved people really experience these kinds of issues? Well, Dr. Diane Clark pulls the Band-Aid off. Join TV host, author, and life coach Dr. Diane Clark for the Unplugged live experience.
It's become the buzzword of what's going on. And I believe that God wants to infiltrate
for an afternoon of healing mixed with the powerful praise and worship.
I thank you that you are sent ones and God's going to
with
send
life-changing
you forth as royal citizens of the kingdom of heaven.
All hell was breaking loose. I mean, we went from one thing to the next.
You step off into a territory of opinion. You got to get ready.
For event information and vendor opportunities, call 904-419-9831. And Prophetic Presbytery will be available. Join us at the HC Multicultural Center located at 6651 Crestline Drive, January 30th at
Put a seed in the ground and name your seed. Experience the blessings of the Lord by sowing into this outreach. Help us take the gospel around the world. You can do so by going to Cash App. Type in the dollar amount you would like to give, and then type in $D Clark Ministries in the For section. Make sure you include your telephone number and a small prayer request. I can assure you that our prayer counselors will be praying for your needs. If this encounter has been a blessing to you, send us an email at dclarkministries@gmail.com and let us know how we've been a blessing to you. Or write us a letter or drop us a seed at Dr. Diane Clark, P.O. Box 9148, Jacksonville, Florida 32208. Or call 904-419-9831. Stay connected with Dr. Clark and the Unplugged Ministry. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Like our Facebook page and Instagram family. This way, when we go live, you'll get an alert the doctor is live. To find out more about Dr. Clark, go to my website today. And while you're there, become a partner. Go to DianeUnplugged.com. So you've been watching the show. Would you like to be a content provider yourself and develop a show for the Inspire Network? Please give us a call today at 904-389-5592 or go to www.connecttv.info to submit a show idea.
Hi, I'm Pastor Darren Gale of the Lifeship Church in beautiful Port St. Lucie, Florida. I want to invite you and yours to join us on Sundays at 10 a.m. for a life-changing experience. Look forward to seeing you.
Do you love video production? Would you like to have a career in video production, but don't know where to start? Your problem is you have no one to teach you. Well, the Inspired Television Network is initiating its apprenticeship program. We'll teach you video production, how to set up the simple camera operation, post-production, and advanced editing. Imagine sitting down with an expert and being taught weekly how to do it. It's a 6-month program that requires a minimum of 10 hours a week of hands-on training and 3 hours a week of classroom training. You've always wanted to make movies or learn production. This is the perfect program for you. Give us a call today at 904-389-5592 or sign up at www.learntv.today. It's free for churches and nonprofits.
COVID-19 has taken more lives than we care to count. From the young to the old, all cultures and walks of life have been affected. Be counted among the living. The First Coast Black Nurses Association wants to know.
Did you get the shot? Good morning to all God's beautiful people. Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Listen, we want to invite you to tune in on the Inspired Network every Wednesday at 6:30 a.m. to watch Morning Inspirations with the Scotts.
We be them Scotts, y'all.
We be them Scotts.
Yes, sir.
Amen. We're looking to see you in the AM.
AM.
God's blessings upon you.
Shalom.
Toot-toot.
Boy, you crazy.
Hello, good people. How y'all doing? Listen, we're on the set of the Plowdens right now. We're getting ready to record, but I thought it would be robbery for us not to let you know that we're back.
Yes, we are, and we missed you guys. We hope that you missed us too. But you all have to tune into The Cloud, and every Monday at 8:30.
Listen, we'll be looking to see you. And hopefully that when you do listen, that something grabs you and connects you with us.
Absolutely. So get connected and stay free.
Our communities have struggled. It's time to rebuild and heal. Now, it's time that we follow the trusted voices and get vaccinated.
We are the heartbeat of the community.
Jacksonville Coronavirus Education and Engagement Task Force.
Have you been looking for the perfect trilogy that seems to summarize the struggle and victory? This book shares with you the keys to becoming better. In this book, the One Testimony author, Frederick Gibbs, unlocks the principle of a prophetic word from God that answers all the questions of his life. In this,